Welcome to the weekly swing low. It's October 12th, 2025, and we had a big down day on Friday. Really important implications here. Let's jump right into it. Let's start with SPY. So there's three scenarios from here. It could be that that's it. Friday was the bottom, right? That's actually there's a good chance that that might be the case just because of the magnitude of this huge downdraft. The other option is this is just the beginning of a daily cycle decline, but and also a weekly cycle decline. So let's just talk about the very clear levels. Let's first look at the daily chart. So this looks like it was a daily cycle low back here on September 25th, a very short decline, and then we rallied for 11 days. Friday was a new high, a new all-time high. And here's the thing about Friday that's so nasty. So the high on Friday was $673.95. And the high the previous day was $673.94. So this thing made a new all-time high literally by a penny before reversing. That's so important. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you probably already know what this is. It's a bearish outside candle. This is probably one of the most pernicious. It literally makes a new high by 1 cent, catches a bunch of people up there, and then violent reversal. And look what it did. It took out all of these gains since that bottom on September 25th. It took out all those gains and even closed below this low. That makes it a pretty good candidate for this being a washout. So it could be that this whole thing is a weekly cycle. And so this would make this day 50, which would be a really long daily cycle. Or this could be the start of a new decline or some kind of really short cycle. There's a lot of, you don't get a huge down day like this very often. And so, like, big picture is what does this mean for the weekly cycle? So, this was very clear that this is week 26. And that is a really long rally. Looking back, right, you 26, we haven't had a 26-week rally since at least going back to basically the COVID rebound, right? Like that's like 5 years. Where like this is a nice, clean, pretty long uptrend. Like that's the last really long uptrend we had, which was the rebound off the COVID low. So what that means is this is most likely a weekly cycle high. The question is, do we get a really ugly move down, or do we just get maybe one more candle lower, like something like this, close below the 10 period moving average and then back up? I suspect it's going to be something like that. I suspect this is going to be a V bottom. And so you got to watch the levels. So very practically, it's going to be really hard to print a daily swing low because just by definition, this is what we need to see to have a daily swing low in place, right? We need a candle that closes at this point. Like think about that structurally, we would need to close as an all-time high for us to get a confirmed daily swing low. So that means you can't wait for a daily swing low. That's too late. And so very practically, if you zoom down to the hourly chart on SPY. So this is your hourly chart Monday, or excuse me, this is your Friday hourly chart. You can see the selling really started around 10:30. This is the candle that goes from 10:30 to 11. I mean, look at that big drop. And then we get a little bit of consolidation, and then we start making more lower lows. And the whole day, we just kept making lower lows, right? This is a lower low than this. This is a little consolidation, then you make another lower low and another lower low. So there was no reversal, at least not on the hourly. So what you're looking for on Monday is something like this. So very, very specifically, you want you need to close above the high of this candle, which is $656.81. So the simple trade, and these are just round numbers, would be to if we can close an hourly candle above this $656.81. That could be your entry, so call it 657. Let's say you set a buy stop at 657. Your a buy stop, and a sell stop. Your sell stop would be below the low of this candle. So that would be, call it below 653. So there's a low of this candle is $652.84. That you could play back to all-time highs. Now again, to that point, you're going to have to look for, if you're going to get a daily swing low, you're going to need an hourly swing low first. So this is a case where you're going to need to play the lower time frames because of how large this daily candle is in terms of like just its scope, right? If you waited for this to confirm, you've missed a lot of the trade. If you want to be even more aggressive, you can even go down to the 15-minute time frame, right? Like look at this 15-minute time frame. If we could get a little 15-minute swing low, like right here, right? So a 15-minute swing low would be a close above 600. Oh, yeah, it's the same. That makes sense, right? So like hourly candle, it gives us the same swing low level as a 15-minute. That makes a lot of sense, which makes it all the more actionable, right? Because then you can play something like this, and then you would just trail your stops, right? Like you would, as this thing starts moving up, you've got to be cautious about buying what's going to end up being a lower high. So as this moves up, like let's say you get in on this candle, right? As it moves up, you move your stop, right? Once you've passed this 15-minute time period, now your stop is back down here, right? It's moved from here, and you just kind of walk your stop up, right? Because you're gonna at some point you're probably gonna have some kind of pullback, even if this is the bottom, right? Like something like this, and then you end up with something like that, right? Like that's what you would expect this recovery to look like on a lower time frame. I would say with the caveat that you'll probably get a pretty big candle, like you'll have an indication that momentum is here, right? Like the candles should be bigger, especially the up candles, right? And the down candles should be smaller. Like structurally, it should start to look like, oh, okay, this looks like this is a market that is rebounding. So this would be an example of kind of what you would want to see on a lower time frame. And um, if you think about what this looks like on a monthly picture, thinking like really bad, like worst case scenario, we are relatively early in the month, and so there's a lot of time for this candle to become a bearish outside candle. So to be clear, it would look like, let's pretend this is the whole candle. It would look something like this, right? So it would make a lower low. So to be clear, that would be going below 633. That's the real bear case here, because think about it. Just like this candle is a bearish daily candle, this is a bearish weekly candle. If this continues to follow through, we're going to end up with a bearish monthly candle as well. So that's what you want to watch for. And so it's the same story for the other indices, just different levels. So let's just go through those really quickly. So for the Qs, that 15-minute swing low, we would need to close above $593.24. For the Dow, we need a 15-minute close above 457, call it. For IWM, that's a 15-minute close above $238.76. For SMH, that's a 15-minute close above $328.56. So those are the major indices. Let's look at Dixie. What kind of pattern is Dixie taking? So Dixie is trying to build a base here on the weekly chart. So we've got this swing low here, this weekly swing low back on, when was this? This was back the last week of June. And so now we've set this other swing low on the weekly, which is slightly lower. So it kind of takes out this low here. And now we've kind of consolidated a little bit here for the last 3 weeks. So it's very possible this was a weekly cycle low, and that means we just finished week 3 and we're about to start week 4. Generally, the Dixie moves inverse to markets, and so if this is in its weekly uptrend, that lends credence to the idea that we're starting the weekly downtrend for the major indices. Again, the catch is we could have a really, really short, shallow weekly downtrend that becomes a really big buying opportunity. And that's what I expect. And on the daily chart, we are on day 17. Friday was day 17. We do have the risk of a swing high. So the first bearish signal you want to see for Dixie is a close below 98.70. That would make Thursday a daily swing high and would be the first step that you would need to start some kind of daily cycle decline. which could turn into a weekly cycle decline. So that's the catch here. This could be a new weekly cycle that's on week 3, but the catch is we could start to roll over very soon, which means we would have just a really short rally and a really long decline on the weekly chart. And in monthly, we've got we're working on a little monthly swing low. If this thing can close above 98.64, that will be a monthly swing for Dixie. All right, let's move to the 10 years is moving inverse to Dixie. So now they're moving against each other. They were moving in lockstep at one point. So the 10-year U.S. Treasury yield has formed a swing high by closing below 4.11. So we're going to watch that. Close below 4.11 makes a daily swing high, and this daily cycle appears to be on day 21. Okay, so that, and on the weekly, we talked about how we had this weekly cycle that was just basically all consolidation inside this giant range, and we had a little swing low in place. While we were above 4.10, we're now below that, slightly below that. And so that becomes your line in the sand. Break above 4.10. We're now kind of back in business. This is a swing low. If we don't, that means we're just continuing the weekly cycle decline. And notice we have long weekly cycles for this, like around 30, almost 40 weeks. And so this could totally be the continuation of this weekly cycle. Let's move on to crypto now, because that's doing something a little bit different than the indices. So crypto was already beneath the swing high on Friday, unlike the indices that were making new highs. And so, but they still, got pummeled on Friday, just like everything else, and it's a big down candle. But notice what this is Bitcoin, what Bitcoin is doing as of Sunday. It's making a new high on the daily chart. Remember what we talked about? This big candle from Friday is too big to wait for a swing low. Bitcoin would have to close above 122,600. That's too long. That's too long. That's if you wait that long, you've missed a lot of the trade. For this one, I really like to look at the 4-hour chart. Given that this thing trades literally 24/7, look at that. So we've got this big down candle on Friday. This is a 4-hour candle. And notice we haven't made a lower low since that. All of this has been consolidation. This big 4-hour candle from Friday has a range with a low at 107,000, very clear line in the sand, and a high at 117,224. So once we break above that, something like this, maybe we get that the next candle, we now have a clear 4-hour swing low in place and a strong signal that we're going to get that daily swing low. I've already added some to ETH, actually, not Bitcoin. But if we zoom down to the 1-hour, we can see where the swing, you can see this is your 1-hour candle, right? This was your last Friday candle that made that lower low. So again, think about this. These 4 candles combined are one 4-hour candle, right? This is just looking at more detail. So we would need to break above 115,156, like above this line. Let me just break this down right there. So as long as we can get a candle that closes there, that gives us a swing low for this 1-hour candle, and we have to see more continuation to get a 4-hour swing low, and then eventually a daily swing low, and eventually a weekly. That's the way these things work. But this trade you can take, and I would, again, it's down to your risk tolerance. If you want to give it a really short leash, you can set your stop here at 113,246. It's a little late to get in here, but I mean, truthfully, this is still just kind of building a base. And if you look at ETH, same kind of idea, ETH making a higher high on the daily. So for ETH, let's look at this 4-hour chart. So for ETH, ooh, look at that. Look at this. ETH has already made a 4-hour swing low. Good work, my man. So by closing above 4,025, ETH has made a 4-hour swing low. Really nice signal. And we're now getting another 4-hour candle above that. Now this 4-hour candle closes in about 2 hours as of the time we're recording. We're recording here at about 1:30. So Sunday's going to be an important day for crypto. We've already started the rebound. Again, that could be a place to set your stop, right around 4,020 in that neighborhood. Again, a little late to get in. You really wanted to get in once it broke this base, which is, I got in at this point. We had already had a gigantic candle, so it was hard to get in, at the beginning of this. But breaking of this base is where you would get in. So that's ETH. Very clear signals here. And looking at the weekly chart, look at what this left behind. Nice little wick here. This is all factoring up to be a gigantic bull flag that's going to break up. We look at Bitcoin, similar kind of thing here. So that's crypto. Let's look at precious metals. So gold looks like it might be running out of steam. We've broken that psychological 4,000 level that we expected. Look at this weekly chart though. It's got to pause. Look how elevated we are above the 10 period moving average on the weekly chart. We are very elevated. It's pretty aggressive, right? Wow, that's a lot of distance. So at some point we're going to get a pullback here on the daily chart. Oh wow! So we're on day 50. So we're stretched on the daily and weekly charts. The low I would watch for is a breakdown below 3,944. That would be your daily swing high and your first signal that we're starting the decline. Silver, similar kind of thing for silver. That would be a break below $48.48 for GDX. GDX already printing a swing high. That's interesting. So it's kind of leading the others, right? So by closing below $76.69, it formed a swing high. So that also becomes your upside trigger, right? A break above that means it's leaving this behind as well. We have to get back above this for a swing low. But that's interesting. This thing had already started a big decline on Thursday. And Friday, we actually just consolidated while everything else nuked. So that's actually a sign of strength, just an inside day for Friday. That's GDX, the miners. And let's move on. Let's close out with platinum, and then we'll look at natural gas. So platinum closes the swing high on Friday. So closing below 1,628 gave us a swing high. And on the weekly chart, let's put this away. On the weekly chart, we have an ugly shooter, spinning top, but not a swing high yet. This thing next week, if we close below that 1593 level, so something like this, that's our swing high. So that's platinum. And let's see, what does natural gas look like? Oof, oh, natural gas not looking good. So natural gas, actually relatively early in the daily cycle decline. Look at this very clean swing high. So closing below 3.13. That's as of that was actually Wednesday was a bearish outside candle. So that is just beginning the daily cycle decline. I would stay away from that. Weekly cycle swing low hasn't triggered yet. That would be on a close below 2.88. So there is a little hope if we can stay above that. And finally, for uranium, so you are a shooter on Friday, not a swing high like most things, but watch for a break below $51.51. Same pattern for all of these different levels. CCJ, a break below $86.35. URNM, a break below $60.99. But notice these things did not break down the way everything else did on Friday, which means when the market rebounds, these are some of the horses you want to ride, like the uranium names, the energy names. So those are your updates. I think we're going to have a very fast recovery. It's possible Friday was even the bottom, but this is what we needed. The markets needed a reset, so I'm excited. I hope you are too, and you know your levels now. Thanks for watching.